I'm Kieran Byrne from Access Communications. We are a security technology manufacturer, and we will be talking about sustainability within the security industry. So, first of all, I think it's important to really look at what sustainability actually is. I think there's often a thought that it's all about recycling, it's all about being green, but sustainability goes far beyond just simply being green. So I think this quote summarizes it quite well, that true sustainability goes beyond caring for the environment, means ensuring that future generations inherit a thriving world where people, planet, and prosperity coexist in harmony. So before we talk about the solutions, I think it is important to take a step back and pause and actually understand where sustainability goes wrong. So these are some real world examples. So the first one, the Rana Plaza collapse. So that was a failure within the fashion, the garment industry. Workers had been complaining for a long time that there were structural damages to this building, but these workers were told, but you still have to come to work. Unfortunately, it was a tragic result in over 1,000 workers losing their lives. There were some global fashion brands that used this as part of their supply chain, so Primark, Walmart, several others. So yeah, it's incredibly important that your supply chain partners are aligned with your ethics and sustainability initiatives. Then you've got the Agboshi, I believe I'm saying that correctly, Ghana e-waste dump, where essentially shipping containers were arriving to this dump from everywhere, throughout the world, from the UK, from Europe, and so on. And these poor young workers were trying to extract the materials that could be used from the waste that was being dumped there. And that includes all kind of electronic materials that go into a building, laptops, servers, and so on. But the consequence is it's incredibly damaging to the environment and also the people that live in this local town. And then one which is a little bit closer to home is the Uyghur surveillance crisis. So technology is moving at such a fast pace, and sometimes it is not used in the most ethical standards. In this particular example, there is reports that is being used to suppress certain parts of the community. Yeah, and you will have probably seen this one in the news. So yeah, it's incredibly important that once we are trying to innovate, we do it responsibly. So to look at some of the cornerstones of a sustainable approach, these are some standards that we work to at Access Communications, but I believe they can also be standards that we can use in many different businesses and organizations. So first of all, respect people. So is this business aligned with our ethical practices? Are they transparent around how they do business and their supply chain? Protecting the planet. How are they working to minimize the environmental impact of their manufacturing and the ways they go about doing business? And as we spoke about, innovating responsibility. Technology is moving at such a pace. We want to make buildings more efficient. We want to do more with the technology. But at the same time, we also need to be conscious of how that is affecting people throughout the world. And then also, I think it's just a cornerstone for life is be trustworthy. The relationships you hold and trust in vendors and your entire supply chain is so incredibly important. So if we look at some of the third-party initiatives which are important to look at, and these show that a company is not just voluntarily saying that we sign up to certain sustainability initiatives, they are benchmarked and, yeah, they are given an accreditation, which is globally recognized. So some examples of that. So we've got the UN Global Compact, the GRI, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We've got EcoVadis, which is the world's most recognized sustainability rating. And then we've also got the science-based targets. And these are all different things that we can look for when a company is talking about the sustainability of their operations. Do they have third-party initiatives that actually back up what they're saying? That brings us on to the environment is changing in terms of legislation. So in the past, where we've seen companies voluntarily trying to be more sustainable, we now also have lots of increasing legislations which are coming into force throughout the UK and throughout Europe. So we've got the UK sustainability disclosure requirements. These two are very important, the CSRD and the CSDDD. So what once was a voluntary action from a business is now quickly becoming mandatory. So if you don't know about these initiatives, I would encourage you to have a look and see how that fits in with your own business and also the clients that you're working with. We've also got BREEAM. So I'm sure many people are familiar with BREEAM, both from the consultant community and the client side. And security does play a part in achieving a better BREEAM certification, as well as does your smart building and that whole ecosystem. So yeah, does the vendors you're working with contribute to a better BREEAM rating? We've then also got the materials that go into the manufacturing of the devices. And this is in relation to security devices, but we can also consider that throughout an entire smart building. PVC is widely used throughout the building technology industry. Axis made a stance a few years ago to phase it out, and 90% of all of our products now have phased out PVC materials, and we are transparent around which devices can achieve that. And I think it's important to note that there is safer alternatives in the environment. So choosing to continue using such materials is a choice, not a necessity. So in a positive way, we are seeing sustainability within pre-qualification questionnaires increasingly being asked for. And yeah, that is great to see that we're no longer just being measured upon price, but we're also looking at other important factors. I believe it's really important to see the substance that is actually within that sustainability report. Is the actions that count. It isn't just we have a sustainability report and that's a tick box exercise. I think it has to go far beyond that. Then we've also got what our end clients are asking for. So I'm sure everyone has got lots of different end clients that they work with, and they have sustainability targets that they're trying to achieve. So these are some clients that Axis work with: Amazon, Microsoft, IKEA, and all of them have very ambitious sustainability goals. So Amazon wants to reach net carbon by 2040, Microsoft pledging to be carbon negative by 2030. So not only do we need to produce high quality video surveillance cameras, high quality security equipment that will support their security operations, but we also need to be mindful that that's actually contributing towards their sustainability at the same time. So it's more than just delivering a product that is meeting that use case. And then to bring it back personal, I think every single person within this room today has a sustainability statement. And I think we all need to be reminded does the business that we're doing, does the actions that we're taking, does that align with the ethics, your supply chain, and everything that embeds into your sustainability goals? And I genuinely believe that is something that we all need to be reminded of.
I think it's also worth looking at the cost savings that we can achieve through better sustainability. There's often a thought that you have to go without if you need to be sustainable, but there is genuine business advantages to working with more efficient systems. So this is an example of a data center client that we worked with. They were comparing different vendors. They were looking at the different aspects of the product. So in this example, they were looking at the sensors within the video surveillance cameras, the color fidelity. They were looking at the ease of installation, the analytics, and they were really trying to decide between these two different vendors. And it was a difficult comparison, but the thing that really stood out for this particular client was actually the power consumption of the cameras. So that was a 5 watts against a 10 watts in the two different vendors they were looking at. So we went about measuring that with a third-party piece of equipment. So this is a PoE inline tester. So that was really to back up what was being stated on that data sheet. We then looked at the costs. So at the time of putting this together and the region that they was operating in, the 1 kilowatt cost at the time was 28.62p. So if you look at that just over 2 cameras, it's a £12 difference. It's not a big deal. But if we're considering in this example, this was a data center, and the same can be applied to smart buildings and many different organizations. They have thousands of cameras throughout their estate. So that difference between £12 in one camera, it really adds up. So if we look at it over 1,000 cameras over 5 years, that's a £62,000 difference. So whilst being more sustainable, we can also save money at the same time. And again, we can look at the carbon emissions that are associated with that. And I understand there is a positive move towards more renewable energy sources. But if we are looking to, say, offset our carbon emissions, and it's no secret that carbon emissions is a global drive to reduce these, we want to go with a system which is having a lesser impact on the carbon emissions and the associated environment. So this client that we was working with, we actually noticed on their website that they spoke about offsetting their carbon emissions by planting trees. And that was the same with vendors within their supply chain. So there was a little bit of humor involved, but it was also a factual statement that if they did want to use the other vendor, they should make space for more trees. And we thought we was coming up with a creative line here, but they actually said there was a significant cost also to contracting a company to plant all of these trees to offset them carbon emissions. So again, that was also saving them costs in the overall life cycle. Another aspect we can look at is the entire system. So if we look at the storage of a system, so in this example, this is something we put together with Genetec, and we looked at an Axis and Genetec system together, and we compared it against 3 other vendors within the security industry, 3 other global vendors. We looked at exactly the same requirements, the same lighting, the same codec, and so on. And we used the different calculators to calculate the size of the storage associated with that. So first of all, we looked at how much the camera units were costing. So if we look at this table here, there isn't a great deal in terms of difference in the cost between the cameras. Some is a bigger difference than others, but there isn't a big deal when we're looking at just that cost of a camera alone. But then we look at how many servers are required, and the Axis and Genetec solution within the calculation tool that we was using between the Axis Site Designer software and the StreamVault calculator, it said it required one server. And the other vendors said they required both 3 servers or 5 servers. And I think it's no secret to anyone that servers cost. They cost a lot in the overall system, both in the cost of the server alone and the infrastructure associated with that. So if we look at the conclusion on that individual test, if we require a few servers in the system, well, it's ultimately going to reduce the upfront cost of the installation. But there's also going to be lower power and cooling costs, which again affects the environmental impact. So ultimately, a more sustainable, more efficient system is not only helping a client achieve your sustainability initiatives, but it's also saving costs. So to conclude with 3 key takeaways, I think sometimes we may think that we're a small cog in a very big system. But if each of us play our part to influence sustainability in a modern building, we can genuinely influence more than we realize. The compliance landscape is changing, and it's changing rapidly. So even if you do not believe in all of the voluntary actions which some companies are taking part in, you will soon need to prove as a compliance perspective that you are aligning with these sustainability initiatives. And there is also a genuine business case for sustainability. So sustainability doesn't just reduce the environmental impact, but if we go with a more efficient system, it can improve the life cycle cost of that system. So with that, thank you very much. If you do have any questions, we'll be out on the stand. So thank you.